Coming up, we're going to discuss our ideas and what Walt would have wanted possibly for a fifth gate, which has actually been mentioned for the first time in forever recently. That is up next on Traveling with the Mouse. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 499. 499. We are on the precipice. Episode 500.
There's room for 500.
Yes.
Not quite the same.
Like, we have 499
Happy episodes.
Well, there's always room for 500.
Any volunteers?
Yeah, it'll be a long time before we get to the 999, if ever. Who knows? Who knows?
We shall see.
But anyway, I don't know about you, Adam, but I'm a little tired going into this episode. Right before we decided to record, I actually spent the day at Six Flags over Georgia.
Wow.
So,
and it was like 100 degrees today, so you must be tired.
Yeah, well, I think my watch said 95, actually, so.
Close. Rounds up to me.
So it's not fine. Although we did get the ticket package that included the drink containers that you can fill up all day long. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you probably realized that.
Definitely, yeah, that was definitely useful.
Yeah.
So had a lot of water mostly.
Right.
Or water and Powerade is what we mostly filled it up with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say this. I feel like the new ownership or whoever, for the ones that what's the name of the company that does Cedar Point and everything, that's the same ones.
Right.
I feel like there's a difference, actually. I mean, I feel like there is a difference. It seemed a little fresher than before. So we'll see how that progresses over time. You have to do a lot of things. But see, my girls are the youngest one is tall enough to ride more things. No, just barely. There's a lot that she can't. I think Maddie's old enough, the oldest one. I think she's old enough to really ride everything if she wanted to. She really didn't want to. I think she did ride her first coaster with a loop in it, though.
Daredevil Dive. Was that the first one?
Well, no, that was what the youngest one actually rode. The oldest one didn't. But both of them, really, the first thing we did when we got there was Twisted Cyclone. They were all tall enough to ride that. So that has inversions.
Yep,
just not a loop.
Nice.
I discovered that I'm not cut out to do some of the things anymore. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, certainly.
As I'm getting older, yes, those type of parks are definitely for the young.
Yes. I cannot do teacups anymore at Disney. I could, but I don't want to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because that could even that could even make you dizzy back in the day, like if you wanted to.
Yeah, you could spin it fast and get real dizzy, but nope, not gonna do it.
Yeah, it's just tough for me to. Even some of the things that don't spin particularly fast, they still only spin like moderately fast. Bother me now, and it's just I don't know what it is. I can only assume it's an age thing. Yeah. I did try to kind of look it up. They did give some reasons, and age does play a factor into it. It has something to do with like the way your inner ear is and things like that as you age. So
the older you get, the harder it is. So.
Yeah. Yep. But it only started bothering me in the last 5 years, we'll say. I'm just gonna go put a number on it like that. So
probably since you're at 40.
Yeah. Well, 5 years ago I would have been 42-ish because I'll be 47 in November. So
close enough.
Yeah.
Everest is the one that gets me now after riding it. I don't know why. I can do it once, but if I rode it again, I'd probably be in trouble. I'd be very dizzy. I don't know why that one gets me and Guardians doesn't, but I don't have any issue with Guardians at all for whatever reason. That's odd. But everyone's different, obviously, so.
All right. So, and there it is. I came across this interesting line of questioning, I guess we'll say. Our friends at Parkeology, they had posted about the arc at Hollywood Studios, right? Like what it started at originally, and then what it went to, and then what it currently is. About how each iteration actually seems to be. It doesn't seem to be as visually pleasing, I guess, as the previous version. Right, is the best way I know to put it.
What do you? I'm trying to understand. Like the pieces themselves look nice, like the lands, but together they kind of don't look great together.
No, I'm talking about that archway that goes to Animation Courtyard.
Yeah.
So the
Oh, that's the
sign.
I thought you were talking about the arc, meaning from like
No,
the
no, no. I'm sorry.
arc almost sort of the
No,
park
no, no,
itself.
no. My bad. I messed.
Okay.
My brain's a little bit fried at the moment
But
from the sun. To be clear,
literally because it was like 100 degrees today. Yeah.
I actually do always all the time now. Even at the parks, I wear like a bucket hat or whatever. I just love
Yeah.
those things because it
Help.
keeps it off your neck pretty. For the most part.
Sure.
All that good stuff. Anyway,
Tips from John.
that's a tip. Yes, if you're going to the parks, especially during
Bucket
the
hat.
hotter months. Mine actually came from a place called Mission, not a sponsor, but you can
But
be.
if they want me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like made of material. Supposedly, what you can do is you can like dunk it in water and then rinse it out, and it's like cooling on your head.
Like the
Type deal.
cooling towel technology.
Yeah, but it's
we use the cooling towels.
but it's a hat. So
Yeah. Cooling towels are really good too, though.
Yeah.
We use them all the time.
well, anyway, I jumped track there just a little bit, but
Yeah. Right.
I'm talking about that archway that goes to Animation Courtyard. I should
Yeah,
have
okay.
specified that, but
Yes.
from the way it looked originally, I don't know if you can see this. Well,
I remember back in
the
the day. Yeah.
differences. Okay, so you
Right.
see the one in the
The
middle
Studios one. Yeah.
go into the next Disney Studios one, and then now to the Hollywood one. This probably looks backwards in
Right.
your vision.
I actually like the most current one, honestly. But anyway, I know
It's
you.
kind of bland. That's what they were getting at.
Right.
They're
I kind
talking
of
about
think it
how.
looks more modern now. Cleaner looking. Yeah.
And someone actually commented, they were like, why is Disney so determined to make things more generic and bland these days? I'd like to take a shot at answering this one. I apologize for the lengthy response, blah, blah, blah. I went down there and moving along.
I blame Apple.
This is something interesting that Parkeology does. I don't know which one responded, whether it was Shane or Ted. They basically said that we would not argue any of your points. I don't know what those points were exactly, but they actually said they didn't think they were going far enough. Vital Imagineers who possessed the institutional knowledge did not just leave. For the most part, they were forced out.
Yeah.
The Lake Nona fiasco was designed to thin them.
Right.
Guy who were older and close to retirement were never going to uproot and move across the country. This was
Right.
This was a planned move to eliminate them, they claim.
Right.
Of course,
Yep.
prior to that, we saw several very high profile star Imagineers forced unceremoniously into retirement. Guys who clearly
Joe
had
Rohde.
much more to give and were willing to do so.
Yeah.
This says, but why? Because Chapek, dating back to when he was running the parks, and by extension Iger, did not want creatives with enough power to sway opinion and guide projects, or in some cases, even refuse directives.
Right.
So basically, what he's trying to say is that they took the power out of the hands of the creatives. And one way to help keep it in line, which kind of makes sense with what we're seeing now, is they kind of force the old guys out.
Right. And then keep people who will just say yes. Right.
Yeah, they kept yes men.
Right, exactly.
It's an interesting, I mean, I never had heard that before as a reason why I thought it was interesting.
That makes sense. It's the people who will just implement what comes down from up above rather than here's a bunch of cool things we should do and fight for their project or whatever, which might be original ideas instead of IP, right? Makes sense that they would want that. Controls costs for one.
I went so far to talk about Baxter, right? Tony Baxter.
Yeah.
Said he was, of course, forced out. Said it's a sin what they have done with him. The official Disney produced 30-year anniversary book about Disneyland Paris, which was, of course, guided by Baxter, mentions him a total of one time and in passing at that.
Well, that project went way over budget, right? And Animal Kingdom also went over budget, which was Joe Rohde's project. And that's probably another reason why he was forced out, because it cost too much money. They're cool ideas.
Yeah, but what he was just saying there is like the book about Disneyland Paris only mentions the person who basically helped build it.
Exactly.
One time. That's kind of crummy. I mean, I don't know.
But it's
Anyway,
obviously somebody has a thing of like, well, it went way over budget and was problematic.
perhaps.
So they blame him. So therefore, you don't get a mention except a footnote.
This just seems petty to me.
Yeah,
It really
petty.
does.
It's like if you're writing a book about an animal kingdom and barely mention Joe Rody.
Yeah, how could you do that?
Right.
I mean, the guy literally, his fingerprints are all over the place.
And handprint in one place.
You know what I mean? Along this vein, though, interesting enough, you're talking about budget. Apparently, the Oversight District has approved a 5th theme park.
Right.
This is interesting, right?
Yes, but I think last time they had one of those, it may have been right before Central Florida Tourism Motorcycle District took over, but they had done, remember, I think the Reedy Creek had done that where, the next 10 years or 15 years, and they listed the possibility of a 5th gate. So this one also does that as well, but not until at least 2035, I think it said. So
Skimming through route lines planning through 2045, including allowed new development. Yeah. Possibility of a 5th theme park.
this isn't really new news, but it's newer in the sense that the newest governing body has approved it as well. So
Right. It's going to be at least 10 years before it can be. I'm curious to what that means. It will not be allowed before 2035. Does that mean it can't be open before then, or you can't start on it till then? Which
question.
that's a little vague.
Very good
So
question.
if that's the case, that's going to be a while.
Right. But they listed 2,000 acres or something like that of land that could be developed over the next 15, 20 years, whatever it was. And I'm curious what those 2,000 acres are. I'm not really sure where, but it's land that they deemed suitable for development.
Right.
So I'm curious. I would love to see a map of what areas they look at for that.
And what would be the theme of a 5th gate? Because
That's a really interesting one.
we're already bringing a villain's land to Magic Kingdom instead of its own park. So it seems like that would be out of the question that they would do it, that they would bring a whole park devoted to villains.
Which
So-
that was the biggest, rumor for the longest time was like a 5th gate would be villains. So now what could it be?
When I go back and I think about it, though, I'm like, how could they make an entire park out of villains?
I don't think there's a lot of villains.
There is, but I mean,
You
how well would that work? Do you think?
I think it could work really well. I think the problem with it is, do you just have it be like negative energy for the whole park? You know what I mean? Of like
Negative energy?
park, essentially. You know what I
Oh.
mean? It's like
Well, yeah, that's kind of
Disney's
the other
not
thing, too.
usually that, right? I mean, I can understand a land, but yet the rest of the park remains optimistic that this dark corner, that shadowy place,
What's that shadowy place?
we must never go there. That's villain's land.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that's Epic Universe.
Yeah, that is the shadowy place. Actually, it's not shadowy because there's no shade there, but what's that place that's in the middle of the sun?
I figured that was what you were saying, is you should never go there.
Yes, exactly.
You need to approach it with an optimistic mindset, Adam.
Villain's land?
No,
Just kidding. I know what
universal.
you mean. Yes, I know what you mean.
If you go in with a negative mindset, you're going to come out with it.
Well, good. That's exactly my intent.
Just like someone we know when they went there.
Yes. No, I know. I kid, but what would it be? Villains is out. Yes, I agree. They already have an animal themed. They have like Epcot, which is kind of future and world kind of thing. So, and then movies or IP based movie things. So, a music park. I don't know what could be
A music park?
like a visual music park that's not like.
Well, let's think back.
I don't know.
To go forward, we must first go back.
An animation park? I don't know. What could you?
Looks like we're going back. Or isn't that what it says?
Yes.
Looks like we're jumping back. Yeah.
Yeah. And then hopefully you hear everybody wants to rule the world after that. But
I've seen videos where they will be Like they start like they're taking off, and then they don't
Oh, and they'll
finish.
talk more or whatever?
Yeah, like they
Like if
talk
there's a
more.
delay? Yeah. I've seen that, yeah.
Is that the reason
Yeah.
because of it? If it's a delay, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. If you have to delay the launch for whatever reason, yeah. They have more dialogue.
That's kind of what I thought. I was like, is that dialogue that would normally, I guess that's built in for like for like that to happen. That's kind of interesting. I actually went on hoping that I would have one of those.
Yeah, I've had one
Yeah.
once where it was delayed a little bit and they did extra dialogue, yeah.
It makes this
We're
kind of
talking about
interesting.
Guardians, by the way, in case
Hey, oh,
anyone's not
whoops.
in case anybody didn't catch what we were talking about.
It's like, whoops. All the true Disney fans out there.
Right. But if you didn't catch what we jumped to talking about Guardians all of a sudden.
Yeah. Because of a reference, pretty
You know,
much.
we tend to do rabbit trails quite a bit.
Sometimes. Yes.
What if they did a new land that's like a roadside attraction type thing, like Dino Land was, but make an entire park out of it? That Americana type Route 66.
Making a tire park out of it?
That wouldn't go over well, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
I was just kidding.
There's a part there's a part of me that does kind of wish they could take cues from, like, say for instance, I guess this is totally different nowadays, but Walt obviously took his cues from things that he experienced, right? That's why we had Main Street looked like similar to his hometown, right?
Right. Yep. Harshland, Missouri.
Yeah, and then he loved trains, so obviously they have a railroad. And his imagination generated a lot of it from his television and films.
Right. Carousel of Progress is another good example of his sort of starting in his early life to
he was always
his whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, he was always optimistic about the future.
Right.
He was always interested in how things would eventually progress as far as technology and how we live and everything goes.
Yep.
Maybe they could do a park that's more like high tech or something. Maybe one that's completely run by AI. I don't know.
I know I've heard this kicked around in the fan communities a lot, but if you did a park of older attractions, maybe reimagined, like a New Horizons, a new World of Motion, but I don't think that would go over as well as you think.
I don't know if there's an audience for that. I mean, I know it's a long way off, and there'll probably be a new CEO before it's put into place. I assume, unless Bob Iger's more machine than man by then. He's still around. Like they found a way to, transfer consciousness by that point.
Possible.
And then it's like, we still have Bob Iger as CEO.
Well, nowadays, honestly, with ChatGPT, you could probably just like pretend like you're Walt and give it a bunch of like backstory of Walt Disney and be like, okay, what would Walt do? And it'd probably give you a decent answer.
You know, I kind of joked about the AI running the whole park, but they might utilize AI in generating the ideas or the things that they would do.
It's very possible enough information.
Well, I mean, think about it. We're talking about AI having a major impact probably in the next 5 years, even much less 10 years from now. So I would kind of like to see a park. I know technically they have one in Animal Kingdom, but something with a little bit more earthy tones or something like that involved. You know what I mean? That would be kind of the theme, is to make it a little more natural. I guess Animal Kingdom kind of is that, but that's kind of not. I mean, it kind of is. I mean, it was meant to be like this environment, like their early tag said, was not a zoo, right? Because it was basically like a next generation zoo, really, at the time. Was pretty much what it was. It wasn't the same thing as having animals, behind the typical enclosures that you just go by and see. Like, they really tried to recreate their environment as much as possible.
The zoo parts are more interesting. The trails, I should say.
Right.
Like, even like I went to San Diego Zoo a couple of years ago, and it's great. Like, San Diego Zoo is really amazing. But the way that Animal Kingdom, like you're in Africa or you're in Asia and you walk through and like all the animals are, it's like a progression of a trail and you get to see these things and that thing, it's all cohesive and there's like a story and it's like you go from one area to another and it's very well themed. Whereas most zoos are like, okay, it's mildly themed, but it's like, it's not as well put together as Animal Kingdom, in my opinion. I've been to the Bronx Zoo as well, and it's really good as well. But again, I still think Animal Kingdom nails it for immersion.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, we can come back to what the theme could be. Let's shift gears for a moment. Does this mean it also would include areas for, say, a resort near this fifth gate?
I think it would be.
I know it, like, say, for instance, when Epcot was built, they didn't have a resort there all that quickly, but they did have it within a decade. They had at least one in the vicinity, that being Caribbean Beach. I mean, Caribbean Beach was considered an Epcot resort when it was first built, and it's closer to Epcot than most people would realize, especially if you consider, like now you can see with the Skyliner, for instance, that area
Mhm.
that is Riviera
Mhm.
was part of Caribbean Beach. So you're way closer to Epcot than you realized. And I think when we stayed there, they still had that celebration, like that surprise in the skies thing going on, and we could see those long time ago, back in '92.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever we stayed there, at that resort, you could see like this celebration in the skies or surprise in the skies it was that they did at Epcot. You know how they had that
Mhm.
daily,
Yeah, with the
they had a daytime 20th anniversary basically with the
right.
dragon boats and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, these weren't like dragon boat races. These were actual, like, they looked like dragons on the front. There were speed boats with with a
Right.
dragon face. But yeah, all those things. They had
Mhm.
they had the big inflatable characters at each
Oh, yeah.
country.
I do remember that.
Like
That was
Chippendale was
cool.
China, Donald was Mexico. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I do remember that.
Of course, you know who America was.
Yeah.
It was Mickey. Come on.
Mickey Mouse.
I
Actually,
think
that back there is like part of that era, the Mickey balloon thing. But
Air Force One.
because this map is from '92, yeah,
That's why it was called Air Force One.
yeah.
The hot air balloon. That was for those of you that can't see what he's pointing at,
Oh,
that
right.
are listening to
Right
this.
now,
There was a
he's
hot air
showing
balloon in the early '90s, mid '90s that had
Mickey's
Mickey's face
face on,
basically,
where his giant
and
head was the hot air balloon.
they referred to it as Air Force One. Some of you may remember that listen to this. Who knows?
A lot of people nowadays don't know what the Earful Tower was.
Right. So I guess to kind of go back to where I was going in this vein, to get away from the theme of the theme park. If a resort was close by to there, to whatever this is going to be,
Yeah,
and then given their level of wanting stuff to kind of go together, they would create a resort that would fit it. Who knows? But what would
yeah,
be another resort theme, like one that has not been used, perhaps that would be. That's kind of they're kind of running out of that too to find the unique one, the unique resort ideas, don't you think?
yeah. I think it would have to be more related to the environment.
Whatever the park's going to be first.
Right. I think it might be that.
Well, they did take those things into consideration
Mm,
when they built the Magic Kingdom there because there was no accident where they decided to put the contemporary, how the skyline of it was in Tomorrowland,
right.
right? So,
Yeah, back when it was very intentional when they put resorts where you could see it from certain locations, whatever.
yeah,
It'd be cool if I know they probably wouldn't like the original concepts that they didn't, like the Asian hotel, like if they did something in that theme, or although the Venetian basically is what is in Vegas now, that was going to be another one, but
right.
you don't want to do another one of those, but there's not a lot of
Well,
European,
there's not some cultures that you can actually use there in this non-controversial. Let's put it that way.
right?
Well,
Yeah,
there's not a
yeah,
lot left that's
right.
not already been used.
Because you've got Riviera, obviously, but the location, I think they just wanted a deluxe resort on the Skyliner. So they threw it together very quickly. It's a very small resort. And like you said, it was part of Caribbean Beach. So being literally right next to Caribbean Beach is kind of an odd location for it. But
Yeah, I
again, it
think
was just for that reason, the Skyliner.
which
That's why
ones
it
was
was.
it? Which ones was it they got rid of? Trinidad
Mm,
North, I think. They still have South, right? I could be wrong. I may
I
have
have
that
to look
wrong.
at it again. But yeah,
They got rid of that, and I want to say there was one other area that was right over there.
on
But
that
yeah,
far
but yeah,
end, yeah.
Caribbean Beach was pretty sprawled out. Still is to a degree, but I mean, it was really sprawled out back when that part was also Caribbean Beach.
Yeah. And I love Riviera, but it's a weird, again, it was obvious that it was just to put a deluxe on the Skyliner. That's the only reason they built
That
it.
was they're like, we're gonna need to put a deluxe on the Skyliner. Hit me with some ideas.
And a
Pretty much.
DVC,
Yeah,
on
on
top
top of
of
that.
that.
So a
Yeah.
tower was the obvious choice because it was taking up the least amount of land.
Right. And we can't have people seeing the fireworks from Caribbean Beach. So we have to
They don't
block most of it.
they don't pay enough. No.
Exactly. We need to block it with some big building. No, just kidding.
We think.
I did ask my AI what the theme should be, and then I, just for funsies, said, now pretend you're Walt. What would you build if you were Walt's consciousness in AI form? What would you do?
Okay.
But so here's what it said. This is not Walt. This is what it decided. And it says the theme should be Disney's Kingdom of Imagination.
Kingdom of Imagination. Imagination.
Ugh. Speaking of a ride where they rip and reimagine. It says a park that celebrates the power of dreams, creativity, and storytelling across every kind of medium and culture. The core concept is it's a park for dreamers, inventors, and artists.
Isn't that what EPCOT is?
A place where Disney can mash up fantasy, future, folklore, it does sound like Epcot, and fan favorite IP, while giving them the freedom to go with new lands that don't fit neatly into existing parks. Okay, so there's like the Mythos realm. This is the potential lands, a mythic land, which sounds similar to that one that was going to be at Animal Kingdom.
Yes, it does. The one that they were going to devote to mythical creatures.
Right. So that could be interesting.
You can find remnants of their wanting to do that too, by the way. Because there's like a
Right.
dragon in the emblem or on the sign.
Right. Yeah, in the parking lot. Well, maybe they changed the parking lot recently, but there's signs of the dragon everywhere, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Still.
Dragon.
Another land they say is DreamWorks, not that one.
Well, you can't use the name
know.
then. So I mean, come on.
It says the DreamWorks District. A
I
place
see.
celebrating animation and the art of storytelling, which isn't that what used to be at Hollywood Studios? A dark ride where your imagination literally paints scenes like Fantasia meets Crayola Fever Dream. What?
Fever Dream.
Yeah, Crayola Fever Dream. But Fantasia, that would be cool actually to have a Fantasia ride. Again, going back to my thought of like having music be part of it in some way, like Fantasia would be interesting. A Fantasia dark ride would be cool.
That would be interesting.
Okay.
When you think about it, I could see them doing something, especially with today's technology, that would work really well with, say, for instance, the marching mops. That scene in
Right.
particular, I could see
Right.
stuff like that taking
cool.
off. But yeah,
There's lots of different things in Fantasia that could be interesting. Even Fantasia 2000, maybe.
Chernabog.
Yeah.
Utilizing him.
Yeah.
So
You could use that as the finale, the Mickey part. There's a villain's land here, but maybe this is not realizing there's going to be one at Magic Kingdom, but because it says Maleficent's Castle, Ursula's Grotto, an e-ticket ride. Yeah. So no, probably not that, but it says Worlds Beyond, like a sci-fi space fantasy. Is this like, oh, they're talking about Marvel, but you can't really do a lot of Marvel. Not necessarily.
Yet. Isn't there like a statute of limitations that's going to run out at some point as far as that goes?
I don't know. I think it's as long as Universal keeps the rides and things that they have, as long as they keep them open.
The existing ones, you mean?
I don't think they can change them at all, but yeah. But if they ever close like their Spider-Man ride, then I guess that would give Disney the opportunity to build a Spider-Man attraction, I guess.
Yeah, the green light.
But that's probably why Universal's going to keep that thing open forever. It's never going to change.
Tell you what, the Spider-Man ride has, it was revolutionary, still is. I mean, there were rides that There are only a few years old that utilizes the technology that they put in
Yeah,
there
it's
16 years
still
years
well,
ago. No, now
more than that, I
26 years.
think.
Excuse me,
Yeah, yeah,
26 years ago. My bad.
yeah,
Time gets away.
right. Well, I thought that ride at Six Flags over Georgia, the DC one, was actually pretty
It's
good.
good.
Yeah,
That's good. I mean, it uses obvious laser points like Buzz does currently,
right.
but it's still good.
Yeah, I thought that one looked pretty decent.
As a matter of fact, it's a hot day, and we actually asked to like just stay on because it was not that busy, and they let us. So we did it twice in a row to
Oh,
kind of
really?
just to have a place to cool off. There's not too many good places to cool off there.
True.
Pretty much there, and Monster Mansion is about the only two places you can
That's what
cool
I
off.
was thinking. Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah,
And I would rather do that than Monster Mansion. I wasn't impressed with that one.
actually, you should probably give it another try. They've updated the stuff
Oh,
in it.
really?
Like they've updated some of the effects in it. It's
Okay.
actually a little more intense. It actually scared our girls a little bit.
Really? Huh.
Yes,
Okay.
the marsh scene. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I didn't know they had updated it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you could probably find it on YouTube if you want, or you can
Okay.
go.
Yeah, I
You're
could.
not
My
that
son
you're
wants
not
me to
that
go
far
back.
away.
Yeah, he wants
Yeah.
me to go back. But...
Which one? Both of them?
Well, yeah, they both do. Yeah, they both like the coasters. Yeah. No.
Yeah, they're getting to that age, especially Aiden, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he loves them now.
Yeah.
All right. So I told her to ask if pretend to be Walt. So it says, what would I do? I do what I always did. Look forward, invent the thing that no one else dares to imagine, and build it before they believe it's possible. I wouldn't ask, what should we put from Disney into a new park? No, sir. I'd ask, it's funny, what's missing from the world that Disney can create? That's what I did with Disneyland. People thought amusement parks were dirty carnivals, so I built a place where families could dream together. When folks thought Epcot was just a science fair, I envisioned a living city of the future. So he would make a park that's never the same twice, a living, breathing canvas that changes seasonally, nightly, with tech, with people a place that reacts to its guests. Let children shape their stories, let the grown-ups rediscover their wonder, and keep surprising them.
I just thought of something somewhat interesting that could be a theme, right?
Okay, what?
Since there's a lot of talk, we'll say, about going to Mars. Let's assume in 10 years it hasn't been done. Maybe you could make a theme park based on living on Mars and what you would
Or
put there.
another planet,
Yeah, or another planet. Yeah.
like Batu.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's
Or
its own little corner on Galaxy's Edge.
Tatooine.
You could actually make if they wanted to go that far with it, probably not at this point after the hotel, but they could probably make a Star Wars like completely themed theme park with as much stuff to work with as they have in that universe.
Oh, yeah. You could
They can
totally
most
do.
definitely do that. I mean, you could have sections of different eras, maybe. Like you could have you could divide it up into the stuff that's the originals, the prequels, and the sequels. You could divide it up that way.
Yeah.
You could have
You could
different
do
plans.
an entire Star Wars park, actually. Yeah. That actually might be pretty cool. But I remember going back to all the way back to the beginning of what we were talking about. The Imagineers, a lot of the backstory that I've read of Galaxy's Edge was the Imagineers wanted to build like Tatooine, which is, it's in like almost every Star Wars movie. Well, not, it's in more of them than not. It's like the most visited planet, right? But it got overturned by the bigwigs, mainly Kathleen Kennedy, who wanted the newer stories to shine. I think Iger probably would agree, right? We're making these movies. It should
I was
be the
gonna
new
say,
stuff,
I
right?
feel like that sounds more like an Iger idea in my opinion, but
Well, I've read it was Kathleen Kennedy, but again, most Star Wars fans don't like her. So, but anyway,
they don't want to find any reason to blame her.
right, exactly. So who knows for sure, but that's the main.
Uh,
But the other thing is, like, if they actually built Tatooine in Florida in particular, I'd be like, boy, it rains a whole lot on this desert planet.
yeah, right.
But
It's like there's plenty of rain in this desert.
right,
Yeah, it might be hard to build, huh? Yeah.
I guess in California it's not as rainy. I guess it could make sense there, but
That actually might be a good idea for a resort. like rooms they're like their own Tatooine.
That could be
Like
cool, yeah.
But you could, yeah, like
I think
you could get a room that looks just like Uncle Owen and Aunt Drew's hut or whatever that was.
like down in the
Mistaken.
ground.
Yeah.
You couldn't build it in Florida or you hit water very quickly.
Well, they would probably do like
Build
build
it
it
up.
above. Yeah,
Yeah, I
build
guess
it
you
up.
have to. I honestly think, obviously the Star Wars cruise ship didn't make it because it was so expensive. That was really the reason. But a Star Wars hotel, I think could do really well. Make it a
Yeah,
deluxe.
I think they took the cruiser idea. It was not bad. I mean, I think they probably could have been more successful if it wasn't so expensive, but I think it was expensive because it had to be. So I mean, it was kind of a
Yeah,
two-edged sword, you know. I mean, they
right.
couldn't price it to justify it.
Yeah. It had to be like book
It was
solid
too
every time in order for it to be successful. And it just
right, but
was too expensive for that.
it was too big of an idea for what people would pay. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They just went overboard with that one.
Yeah. And I remember, in D23, the first time they mentioned Galaxy's Edge, they talked about a Star Wars restaurant where they would have the live entertainment, and they scrapped it from Galaxy's Edge and moved it to the cruise ship thing.
Mhm.
And I'm really annoyed about that because that would be sold out every night. That restaurant would be packed if it was just a standalone restaurant.
Well, not if the entertainment they provided was what was on the Star Cruiser, truthfully. I think that was probably a little bit I don't think that's what people
Maybe.
were looking for.
I've heard a lot of people say they loved it, but I just think as a concept, Oga's Cantina is great. It's way too small. They need a restaurant that's a sit down restaurant so badly. That would do so well, I think. I would want
Yeah,
it.
it was kind of a flaw that they didn't work that into the
Galaxy's
opening,
Edge.
actually.
Right. They took it out of Galaxy's Edge. Again, Galaxy's Edge is there's a lot that they took out from what they announced
Right. Like
initially.
I think when it first released, like we were just so intrigued by it and it was very immersive. Not as much now just because you don't get as much of the interaction that makes it seem like it's a
Yeah.
living, breathing planet, I guess. Like it's
Right.
not as much of that interaction like we once
Well,
did, but
yeah. Going back to what I thought you were talking about earlier about Hollywood studios as well,
oh,
is the park is now going to be 3 different lands based on movies, and then you'll still have Sunset Boulevard, and then I guess the Hollywood Boulevard area, and then Echo Lake, which is it's just a lot of very different things that don't really work together.
it's Disney Movie Land,
Right.
kind of.
And the weirdest transition for me of any 2 lands is walking from Toy Story Land to Galaxy's Edge, because it's just like it doesn't, I don't know, transform you in the same way. When you go from the Grand Avenue, you have that tunnel and you sort of turn, so it kinda gives you a second to, like, and it's in, like, the forest, like, the what do they call it? The forest, what do they call it? That area. So it's a slower transition,
Mhm.
whereas when you go from Toy Story Land, there's a little bit of buffer, but it's like you see Buzz Lightyear standing there,
Yeah.
and then 30 seconds later, you're, like, in the middle of the town, Batu, whatever. It just doesn't flow.
It's no, right there. What's funny? It's like there's literally like a line almost where the pavement changes or whatever. It's almost like you're walking through a painting or something. You're
Yeah,
going from one thing to the next. No,
right.
no real transition.
Yeah. The
It's like
the the
you went through the
yeah,
looking glass.
right.
Like there's an
That's
imaginary glass there.
right. It doesn't really, I don't know how there's no solution for that, but
Yeah. Now I will say this: what's it going to look like as far as the entrance on the other side, which does flow a little better right now with the way it
the Grand Avenue side?
the Grand
Yeah.
Avenue
The
side. It
tunnel.
does flow a little better because
Yeah.
that structure looks like it belongs there somewhat,
Right.
right?
Yeah. The other side, the Toy Story side, is not that. So it needed a better way to go in, but
I guess it made sense to start to put the side on this side closest to them, Buzz and the aliens, because it was the closest thing to science fiction, right?
I guess that's their transition. I don't know.
Just think about what it's going to be though with monsters, like right there.
Yeah.
Like I
I
don't see
mean,
how you can make that subtle. It's like they're going to be like right there. You know what I mean? It's like Monsters Inc. Land is going to be right there. It's going to be in your face, and then there's also going to be the Interesting Galaxy's Edge.
right.
So I don't know. It just seems less subtle. I think that with the way they're going to have to work it, but
Right.
maybe they'll surprise us.
Maybe. And I'm guessing the show building for the Monsters Inc. door coaster is going to be far enough back to where you won't see it from Galaxy's Edge, because that would be really weird if you're.
Yeah, let's say it's going to take up
standing.
some of the cast parking, right? So
Yeah. So hopefully it's far enough back to where it's not like the Guardian show building and you just see this giant sky painted building from that side. I don't know.
If it is themed to the rest of like the Monsters Inc. and they can actually pull that off, right? Making it look like it's part of it, then it would work.
Well, not if you're in like because it's over by Rise of the Resistance. So it's supposed to be like a foresty, mountainous area, right?
I don't know. I know it's kind of big building, but I don't know if it'll be visible from there. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll.
Probably. I mean, I think it's built up enough around there where it wouldn't be. So
Just based on the spires alone, I question whether they care. I mean,
yeah, that's true. But when you're in Galaxy's Edge, you obviously don't see them on a giant pole like a mountain peak, like 50 feet up on a pole.
But when you look at it from behind,
there's just something about it, you know. I don't know what it is.
That might have been what I was talking about. Now that I think about it, the spires.
Yeah. But I think Monsters Inc. Land will be good. I just wonder what the second attraction is going to be. You know, the B attraction, because Everland has 2 apparently, which is like really annoying to me.
Well, is it going to be something outside of utilizing the theater?
That's what I wonder. Yeah,
I think they're going to utilize the theater for something.
So is it going to be Monsters Inc. is going to move over there, laugh floor? I don't know. Is it that popular?
No, I don't think they're going to move the laugh floor. I think if they do something there, it would be newer. I don't know that it would be a 3D show. That might be the easiest transition for them, though, since they have a theater there already. So I think they're going to utilize the theater and have something probably a little newer. Maybe they can utilize that giant like floor that they have down there for Sweetums, like the in between. Maybe they can utilize it to do something with Monsters Inc. related. Maybe Sully comes out. I don't know.
I mean, I would like to have maybe they're going to move the dark ride from Disneyland out there since they're closing it, but I just wish they had something that was better than just a show. But
did they announce what they're doing with the one that's closing? Did they announce what they're doing, replacing it with yet?
I imagine D23 in a couple of months we'll hear more about D23 Destination. D23 would be more info on this, hopefully. More details on Villains Land and whatnot.
Since they decided to do some version of D23 every year now.
Yeah.
Instead of every 2 years.
Well, I hope so.
Is this the official one, or is this supposed to be like the in-between one?
The in-between one, because they always do it at Disney World nowadays, the last few times. So they do
that's
one
right.
in Anaheim and one in Orlando.
They're just basically switch coasts now.
But it's basically the same thing, just maybe a slightly smaller scale, because this one's at Coronado this year. Yeah.
I've never been to one of the
D23s.
Well, I mean, I've never been to any of the like convention areas. I think of Coronado. Maybe they would be able to utilize those areas. They're probably pretty good size.
It's huge.
Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Moving along.
Yeah.
You know, I was just thinking with the removal of Muppets that unless for some reason they decide to put something 3D related for monsters, that the only remaining park with a 3D attraction will be the new Zootopia one in Animal Kingdom, right? Well, wait, no, PhilharMagic's still there. I forgot.
Yes,
that's right. It's in Magic Kingdom.
Very much still there.
But there was once upon a time each park had one. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, it was big deal in the 90s.
I guess that faded. Even though they still utilize 3D in like the, say for instance, Flight of Passage and things like that.
Yeah.
So they do incorporate these things into the ride experience.
Right. Yeah, I don't think your standard 3D show is gonna be as popular anymore.
I think it's one of those that's all been done type things now. Like, I don't think there's too many effects that you could surprise somebody with.
Yeah. That being said, Disney has a lot of shows that are different. I mean, the villain show is a good example of it's somewhat interactive.
At least 3 possible outcomes.
Yeah. And then there's although really the ending is barely different. The one who wins just stands there and you cheer for them essentially. That's really
Right.
all the differences. But anyway, it's still a good show. What else? But like Monsters Inc. is a good example of a show that can be different every time. It just depends on the audience and some interaction. And Turtle Talk with Crush actually is one that can be really entertaining too, but it's more for little kids, but it can be very entertaining depending on the situation. So I don't know. And like Enchanted Tales with Bill is another kind of example of it's not really a sit down show, obviously, but it can be really funny depending on, you know, who gets picked for what and things like that.
I gotta say, I mean, I know I've mentioned this before, but that's one of the things about Enchanted Tale of Belle is like that effect where they create the
That's
door.
the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still impressive to me to this day because it's one of those things that when you first go in there, you're not really looking for it, but even after that, you're watching, but at the same time, you don't. You're just like, oh yeah, it's a door now. I mean, you're just kind of you don't see the how
Yeah.
it's done. It's not easy to see how it's done. Let's put it that
Right.
way.
Another, well, I know we're jumping, keep doing this, but the Ray hologram, even though you kind of know how the effect is done, it still looks really good. I think, like, how you see in the Star Wars movies the way the holograms look, and you
Yeah.
kind of see it in real life. It's pretty cool still to me. I still think
That
that's cool.
that is one effect from the Star Cruiser I wish I'd have been able to see was the Yoda one that they did in
Yeah,
the
that would have
lightsaber
been cool.
training. I really wish
Like,
they could bring the lightsaber training to maybe Galaxy's Edge.
yeah. Shoot, you
And
could
why
put it
not?
in that area that they used to load, well, I guess it's near the First Order, so I don't know if you could fit it there thematically, but, that big open area that where the shuttle drop people off.
Mhm.
There's an empty space there that could be utilized for something like that.
Mhm.
That would be cool. That'd be very popular, I think.
Yeah, they made that space like way bigger than the actual transport. I mean, we know it had to be, right? I mean, what did it look like when something was in there? I guess I need to go back and see if somebody had footage of that whenever I was in
I still
doc.
think it was backstage, I think. I don't think you
Really?
even saw it, yeah.
Didn't actually use it? Oh, okay. Didn't actually
No, they
utilize it?
didn't.
I thought they did.
They just sort of walked in and out of the area from what I saw, yeah,
Oh, well.
unfortunately.
That would have been a better effect if that had something in its place.
Wow. Just when I was saying how Disney's been putting a lot of money into the parks, did you see the fix they did for the lights at Epcot, in the ground, how it was a tripping hazard, that area around the planter, whatever. You remember that?
It was a
They just
tripping hazard?
Yeah, because they had come out, like, the lights and the ground had, like, popped out a little bit, and so they had roped it off, but they fixed it with white, like, wood screws. They just, like, drilled it into the ground, and it looks
Interesting.
terrible. So it's like, "Really? That's your fix?" They just, like,
Hmm.
and the screws
Maybe it's a temporary fix? I don't
I
know.
hope so, but it looks so bad. It looks way worse than before. It just It's terrible.
Just can't get that one right.
I mean, they should just rope that whole area off, put walls around it, and fix it. Like, I don't know why they won't, but
The
anyway,
lighting that they used in the old area right there seemed to work
yes.
flawlessly.
And it blended into the pavement really well.
Yeah,
I would look at it going like, how did they do that? Like, I didn't even
right.
notice the,
It's like they reinvented the light bulb or something. It was trying to improve upon what they had, and they should have just kept what they had.
and
Fiber
they should have
optics.
used, right. They should have used that in Pandora, rather than the paint that fades every 6 months,
Using fiber
the
optics.
glowing. Yeah, they should have just done something like that for glowing
Hmm.
paths. Probably easier maintenance rather than
Right.
black lighting and paint that gets worn off very quickly.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, we actually made a pretty good discussion revolving around the speculation of a fifth park and turned it into something else.
Yeah. I mean, what would I like to see ideally though is probably something that incorporates things that aren't already there. It'd be all new kind of things. I like what the AI came up with in terms of like the kingdom of imagination.
So Figment's going to be the main character. Oh,
Ugh. But I would love to see a Fantasia
Figment's
attraction.
castle. No.
Oh gosh, I hope not. But so I know we'll get to this in a couple of months, but D23 wish list, that's the top of the list for me. It's like, you got to announce that you're fixing that ride. Like, come on.
Imagination?
Yes, it is
Yeah, hopefully
so
it's going to
bad.
be in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, you would think.
Oh my gosh.
I just thought of a whole new idea. We could do a remake land, and they can, they've done all their live actions. Just have it revolve around their live action movies that they remade from
Yeah.
animation.
Well, you mean the good ones or
I guess it would have to include all of them, right?
yikes? I mean, the Lion King though could be,
Would be kind of hard.
yeah, but you could build a water log flume ride like they're doing in Paris, right?
Yeah, I guess you could.
Lion King.
Better known as Splash Paris. Paris Splash, I guess.
Right.
We
Speaking
finally
of
got one.
movies, really quick, I almost went to go see Elio today, but I
Yeah.
didn't.
I know it didn't have the best opening weekend, but I think it's because of, again, when it was released. It followed Stitch, and I don't think anybody knew exactly when it was opening. I don't think they remembered,
Yeah, and it's
So,
not heavily advertised. Like, I barely knew this movie was coming out, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's out. And I look at the trailer again. I'm like, I think it would be good. I do think the story is going to be good, and it's probably going to be like Oscar contender, but it doesn't have the mass appeal because I think people are oversaturated with sequels and things that they know that something new comes up and they're like, what? What am I don't know what to do with this. I'm just being fed constantly stuff I already know constantly.
I'm not so sure that the subject matter actually resonated.
Timing, timing wise.
Well, I don't think it resonated with an audience, really.
We'll
I get
see it.
that. I think the alien thing's been a little bit overdone too.
Maybe. I mean, we just saw Stitch and I thought the remake was good. We talked about that, right? Because I saw it finally.
Yeah,
I thought it was
but
good.
again, it was a live
Yeah.
action remake.
Again, yeah. Like every movie this year has been like the new Mission Impossible. It's another, sequel. Superman coming up soon, and remake
Yeah,
another
a
like
lot. A lot of
reboot.
these studios, yes, are trying to cash in. I think in a post-COVID world still.
Right.
So
Yeah,
they
they're
know
trying to
that
get their money back too.
yeah, I know familiarity does do well at the box office. We'll put it that way. Now, does it do well in the long run? Probably not. It depends.
Right. Original stories aren't breaking through. And
Right. And
very,
they don't
very
have an
little.
opportunity though because of how
Right.
many of the cash grabs are out there.
Yep.
So,
That's all it is. So
it's
anyway.
the artistic side of things have faded to the background, truthfully. I think that's true in a lot of ways, unfortunately. I
But I'm
think
gonna
the
try to go
creators
see
are taking
this.
a back seat. Yeah. I gotta be honest, I don't think it's one that we're probably gonna see in theaters, but never say never. It could happen.
Yeah.
I don't even think there might have been some people initially that gave it a look because of what they heard, but the Snow White, even when it released to Disney Plus, it did get up there as to one of the trending ones. I know, at least initially. I'm just curious as to how long it will last because I just find it hard to believe that people are going to watch that one on repeat.
Probably
So
not.
yeah, I actually went back to the other day because I had watched Star Wars, and I don't know, I was kind of having a fresh perspective on the original trilogy in some
Yep.
ways. But I was kind of doing things in order because, we'd seen Andor recently. So I saw Rogue One, and then, of course, it led into New Hope, and then so on and so forth. So after Jedi, I've said, what's the next thing in the series? Oh, it's The Mandalorian. So I went back and watched the very first episode of The Mandalorian. It's been a long time.
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah. So, now will I complete all 3 seasons to keep it in line? I kind of doubt it, but we'll see.
And then do Force Awakens or whatever.
I guess that would be the next thing, right?
I have not watched Rise of Skywalker since I saw it in theaters 6 years ago, almost.
Wow, you haven't even watched it on digital once?
Nope. I
Interesting.
saw enough. I didn't need to see it again.
In retrospect now, I mean, the whole bringing Palpatine back was completely unnecessary. I mean, they couldn't have thought of something else.
Right. J.J. Abrams, more than anybody, just recycled everything he could. At least Rian Johnson tried something new, even though I didn't love the direction he went. I still will watch Last Jedi. I've watched it many times, actually, because I still think it's good. I don't like the direction they took Luke in particular, but the movie, he took some chances and did new things. I just thought.
Yeah, I think that the line that got repeated just didn't resonate really. Like everything you said you just said is wrong.
Right.
He said that more than once, right?
Right.
Like he utilized it. I'm like, it wasn't even that good of a line.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, we could talk about that for hours, but
yeah. Transitioning.
Right.
So, I think we have a show. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or X and Instagram. Or just formerly known as Twitter. That is all at TWTM Podcasts. We have a Spreadshirt store where you can get your Traveling with the Mouse merchandise. That is shop.spreadshirt.com/TWTM Podcast. We have another shirt. We have another store. Isn't that right, Adam?
Correct. On our website, travelingwiththemouse.com, you can look there. Everything is linked. So our TeePublic store has the Skyliner and Monorail shirts, as well as some others. So check it out there. You can also email us podcast@travelingwiththemouse.com.
So for Adam, this is John. This has been Traveling with the Mouse, and we hope you will join us on our next trip.
To 500 episodes. That's the next one.
Yep. What are we going to do?
I have
a big problem here. Big problem.
It should be 500 minutes long.
Whoosh. I don't know how we're going to pull that one off.
1 minute for every. Actually, we'll just play a clip, 1 minute clip of every episode.